Hey guys, welcome to today's Vehicle Visionary. Yeah, we're definitely starting off differently than what we normally do. I have never started a video off from the driver's seat before, but that's what we're doing today. And as you know from the title of the video, I am reviewing the 2016 model of the Mercedes-Benz S550. And this comes as a request from one of my subscribers, and you're always welcome to request particular vehicles. And if I can get my hands on whatever that request may be, that will definitely happen. I really appreciate that kind of thing. So we're going to take a good look at this particular model today. When I picked it up from the dealership, it had 27,602 miles on it. So it's a low mileage vehicle, considering the fact that the average mileage per year driven in the United States at least is about 12,000 miles. So obviously this was not an overly driven model, considering the fact that it was purchased, or at least as a 2016 model, could have been purchased in late 2015. I don't really know for sure, but we're going to take a close look at it today and talk about all the features and amenities and all that good stuff as we typically do. So as I've been driving around, I'm in comfort mode right now. You do have two different driving modes to select from, comfort and or sport, which don't worry, I'm going to put it in sport mode later on. You do have shifter paddles mounted here on the steering wheel, and of course the typical steering wheel mounted controls. A little bit different. I've gotten so used to the 2020 and 21 models that it's been a little bit challenging to navigate my way around, but it's just like anything else. It's not that hard. Now this is not going to feature the MBUX system that newer models do, so you don't have a touch screen or anything like that. You'll have to use the trackpad and the dial down here on the console, but not to worry, not a big deal. But this vehicle has some very nice features that I don't remember in the 2020 model that I did with the S560 that's on my YouTube channel right now. And one of which being the fact that depending on which way you turn, whether you're just making a turn like I just did from a stop sign or going through a corner at speed, the bolstering on the seat is going to move accordingly to help you stay in place. And it may just not have been turned on that particular model of S560 that I did. So I'm sure you can turn that on or off if you want to within the infotainment system. But I really like that. I like the fact that it will move with you based on which direction you're turning to help you to stay in place and ultimately stay a little more comfortable. As you can hear, just listen. I'm not on a rough road or anything like that, but the road noise is extremely minimal here, which is something you would obviously expect with a vehicle such as this S550 from Mercedes-Benz. Always a plus. The steering is nice and firm, it's comfortable, and of course I'm driving in comfort mode, so it's not as firmed up as I'd imagine it will be when I put it in sport mode in just a minute. But let me slow down here a little bit because I have somebody in front of me. Boy, that's impressive for being in comfort mode. It pushed me back in the seat pretty good there. So, wow, I'm really impressed. I'm going to go into sport mode now and we'll see what happens. Hopefully the camera will stay in place doing this. Sometimes I have some challenges with that. Yeah, that's impressive for a luxury sedan, a full-size luxury sedan. Wow. I mean, I was not expecting to be planted back in the seat. Of course, I'll put the horsepower numbers and everything. You do have the V8 engine under the hood that is not hurting for horsepower and or torque, and that's why I was able to literally, when I pushed the gas pedal, I think you could see me get kind of pressed back in the seat. I wasn't quite expecting that in comfort mode, and of course it's going to accelerate better in performance, or sport mode I should say. So if you're looking for something that has a nice balance in that area, well, this S550 is definitely it. Twin turbocharged engine, definitely going to run well and get you down the road. Now, of course, being that it has a little bit under, I should say, 30,000 miles on it, I've given you all the numbers on the screen already, so you saw the horsepower, the torque, what kind of transmission it has, all that kind of stuff, including the gas mileage. And I would imagine that based on the way this vehicle rides and drives and everything like that, that it was very much pampered by the previous owner. I'm assuming this was a one-owner vehicle, being that it's just about 4 years old, roughly. It could have been purchased in late 2015. I'm not really sure about the history of the vehicle itself, but it obviously was very well maintained, and considering the fact that the average miles driven per year in the United States of America, I believe, is about 12,000 miles, it wasn't driven 12,000 miles per year, and so I'm very impressed. The steering is just solid as can be. If somebody just put me behind the seat or behind the steering wheel of this model and said, here, take it out for a drive, have a good time, and I didn't know the year, I would assume this is a brand new vehicle. And so it drives and rides that well. Let's hit the pedal one more time. You know, this isn't really meant to be a performance vehicle. It's meant to be luxurious, and that is exactly what it is. Luxurious, very comfortable, but yet it has that bit of a sporty flair to it. It's like kind of typical of Mercedes-Benz, where you can get kind of the best of both worlds, or multiple worlds, we'll say, when you're out driving around. Your cargo space is going to range between 15.2 cubic feet and 16.3 cubic feet. And of course, you have all the typical ways of accessing your cargo space here through the rear trunk. The button right here above the rear license plate, an interior button, and hands-free. You don't even have to touch anything, just wave your foot under the bumper, and it opens the trunk right up. And of course, you can use those same features to close the rear trunk as well. There are also a couple of buttons up here, one for just closing the trunk, one for closing the trunk and locking the interior doors as well. Now, there's one thing I want to show you here. A lot of storage space, of course, two little spaces on the side with some nets on them to keep things in. Not very large storage spaces necessarily, but there is the trunk bin that I want to show you. So let me change your angle and we'll take a look at what that is. While I've got you in that position, of course, you do have the floor here, and there's a little hook underneath you can use to hold that up. You just mount it up here where the weather stripping is, and you've got some more storage under here, and there's other things that likely go there that are not here, but I wanted to show you that real quick. But this is the trunk bin. This little looks like kind of like a drawer right here, but here's the cool thing about that, and I had somebody in my previous 2020 S560 video who said, I never knew that was what that was or why it was there. You can push down on that center section, it lowers down, and you can put whatever you want to in there, whatever will fit, groceries, whatever, and keep things in place. That way it's not rolling all over the trunk, and when you get ready to close that back up, you can put it back in just like this if you want to, or you can retract it by pushing the button on the right-hand side. One more thing I want to touch on before we hop into the front seat of the S550. You remember the days when you would close the door, maybe not close it hard enough, and there's that little bit of a gap and you have to open it and close it again, or maybe put your weight against it or something like that to close it all the way? I like the fact that Mercedes-Benz has thought of a solution, and I know this is on other vehicles, but I like the fact that if you don't close the door all the way, it automatically closes itself. That is a very nice feature. Let me do that one more time. There we go. It's automatically going to just go ahead and seal up that gap, close the door all the way. That way, if you ever make that mistake and maybe your hands are full by that time or something like that, you pulled a bunch of stuff out of the trunk and you close the door with your hip or something, that's a nice solution, a nice easy fix for a problem that we've probably all dealt with at some point or another. Now, while you may not have the bolstering on the seats back here in the rear for your rear seat passengers that you do for the front, it is very comfortable and very roomy. A lot of space back here, a lot of storage space. Of course, you've got the door bins, you've got the pockets on the rear of the front seats, you've got the fold-down armrest. There is, where there would normally be a pass-through, there is storage in that area. You can lower that little area, that little door down. You also have a little center console here where you can store things, and two cup holders concealed until they are ready for use hidden away in the center armrest. Very nice nice area right there. You also have, of course, the panoramic moonroof here. There is a little bit of a split between the two, but still a lot of space to see out of for your rear seat passengers, and of course the front portion does open up. Now, in the event that maybe your rear seat passengers are getting hot on a warm sunny day, or they just want some additional privacy, you have shades not only on the driver and passenger side doors back here, but also on the rear window. They can be raised at lower or lowered depending on what the situation is or what is desired. You also have dual air conditioning vents and a power outlet back here on the rear of the console, the center console, in case something needs to be powered. Now, nice little feature to have right there. And of course, all this comfort and wonderful technology continues on into the front seat. Now, I had a comment not very long ago on my 2020 model of the S560 that said that most reviewers don't show the interior lighting, at least not in the dark. Let me do that this time, and I've done that a lot more in the future or past videos since that particular video that was done in February of 2020. But as you can see, the interior lighting, of course, is very nice, and you can adjust that through the center screen here depending on what you want to do. Obviously, there are a lot of changes that you can make if you want to do that. You can dim that, you can brighten it. There are a number of nice changes that you can make. Of course, everything is here that you would expect. You've got all the seat adjustments here on the door panels. Again, like I've said before, if you don't know this, if you haven't watched me before, those adjustments right there for the seats, they're in the shape of the seat if you haven't noticed that before. Now you'll never be able to unsee it again if you haven't noticed that prior. But it makes it very simple to adjust every portion of the seat because you know exactly what you're doing. I like the fact that that's mounted on the door panels instead of on the side of the seat where you kind of just have to feel your way around. You also have seat memory and a very nice modern looking instrument cluster, at least from 2016. Those graphics really look good and modern. Even 4 years later, almost 5 years later, they look very modern. And of course, through the steering wheel mounted controls that are definitely different from newer models, but still very user friendly and highly versatile and functional, or functional I should say, more than versatile. But you can work your way through a lot of different settings here on the dashboard, make a lot of changes, see a lot of information, as you can also do on the center screen. And while it is not the MBUX system that we have in the modern day Mercedes-Benz vehicles, it still is chocked full of a lot of great information, a lot of great things that you can change. And no, it's not a touch screen, but not necessarily a big deal. Of course, you've got the air conditioning vents under that, the controls for the air conditioning system under that. You can put that on auto if you want to. It is dual zone climate control. And you have your cup holders and a lot of nice features here. You've got the little dial here, all the different buttons and switches for making changes to your S550, going through the infotainment screen, the center screen. You can use the scroll wheel here in the center or the trackpad or a combination of both. And depending on what you're doing, I've seen a lot of vehicles where you turn that center scroll wheel and it just keeps turning and turning and turning even when you get to the end of the selections available. When you do that here in this system, it actually just stops turning. So it's kind of a nice feature there, I would say. And of course, everything's pretty self-explanatory here. You can turn different features on and off right here, especially the auto stop start feature. I like to turn that off. Very nice. And one thing I will say, I didn't say this on the test drive, but one thing I will say is that when you change the mode, you have comfort and you have sport. When you change those modes here on this particular model of Mercedes, when you turn the ignition back off, you don't have to reset anything, and that's nice. You can of course adjust the steering wheel, adjust the seat. You have memory for all those things. It's adjustable tilt and telescoping. Very, very nice. Steering wheel mounted shifter paddles. And of course, you have the center console here that has a nice amount of space in it. One thing that I do think is kind of funny in a way, it kind of dates the vehicle. Even just 4 years ago, there is no cell phone that would fit inside of this cell phone holder that is found inside here. And of course, you have a couple of USB ports there too, it looks like. But here's a nice thing, even without the Bombay doors, the center console doesn't just open in one direction. It opens from the driver and passenger side towards the driver and or passenger, depending on what you want to do. That in itself is a very nice feature. And while a lot of people like the Bombay doors, it's a lot easier this way, I think, to gain access to the center console. Of course, all of the typical controls here. You've got your emergency response system. You can communicate. You've got voice control, or voice command, I should say, your reading lights, and of course the control here in the center for operating the shades and or opening and closing the power moonroof. So I'm curious for your feedback, not only on the S550 from 2016, but also, do you want to see more used cars featured here on Vehicle Visionary? Of course, what we do with that is up to all of you. Just tell me down in the comments exactly what you want to see, and I will do everything I can to make that happen. I would like to thank my friends here at Mercedes-Benz of Shreveport, not only for lending me this S550 for the day, but also, as always, giving me access to the photo booth when the temperature is in the high 90s here in Northwest Louisiana. I appreciate each and every one of you for being kind enough to spend another day with me here on Vehicle Visionary, and I look forward to seeing all of you in my next video. Have a great day, guys.